Photoshop is so customizable that you can create the kind of brush you want to for the job that you need to perform. So if you're doing cartooning and you want a hard brush, you can do that. If you want to create a brush that's hard but still has a little bit of jitter to it, you can do that as well. If you want to create brushes for painting watercolors or oils, if you have the patience and the time, you can do whatever you need. So let me show you where all of these options live and also how to save the brush you create. I'm going to go to the window menu and I'll choose brushes. It opens up this rather large dialog box. And of course everything is ghosted out because, well, I have the move tool selected. So I'm going to click on a brush and now it's activated. At the drop of a dime, it comes alive. What I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to move this over a little tiny bit and show you how to use the brush presets so we can choose a brush to then change. So here's our brush presets, the same thing you'll see if you go over here. Now what I'm going to do is choose a 65 pixel brush, and then I'm going to go to brush tip shape, the very first option here, and simply click on it until it's blue. What I can do is affect the diameter. I can also grab this little icon here and click and pull down to change the roundness of the brush, and click on the little arrow to change the angle. The whole time I keep my eye down here as well to see what I'm going to get when I paint. Likewise, I can enter my own angle here and roundness. I can also affect the hardness or the softness of that brush with this slider. So I'm going to paint a stroke over here, and as you can see, my icon now matches this shape. Alright, I'll undo that. Now let's talk about something pretty important, spacing. When you draw with a brush, you're actually drawing instances of a stroke, and the spacing will dictate how close those strokes will be. So if I increase my spacing quite a bit, you can see that in reality, each stroke looks like this right here. But I get a nice smooth line because the spacing is so low. So I'll click and drag, and now I have a brush like this. You can use this to create Broadway lights. You can create snow, rain, or whatever you need to, just by being creative with this type of spacing. I'll go ahead and dial that back to 1%. Now, scattering is interesting because it will take these strokes that make up the brush and push them apart, hence scatter. So it's like a bunch of ninja hiding. Ninja scatter! So they all just go their own way. So I'll go ahead and increase the scatter here, and look what I get. Really cool brush. You may also notice something very interesting. It continued to paint even after I left the canvas because there's so much here and the size is so large as far as percentage that even Photoshop needed a little time to calculate what's going to happen with that stroke. So I'll go ahead and reduce my scatter. I also have the ability to affect the count of that as well as the jitter. Jitter is randomness, and you'll see this quite a bit as we work in this dialog box. We can also, let me go ahead and turn some of these guys off by the way, we can also put a texture on our brush, and you can already see it on the edges here. I can go to this pop-up and I can choose a different texture, and I can see the effect of it on the brush itself. I can also invert that texture and keep my eye down here to see the effect of that. And I can scale it. I can texture each tip. I can change the mode and the depth. Let's go ahead and see what that brush looks like. So we have this little texture on the edge. I'll undo that. Dual brush is kind of fun because with dual brush you can paint with two brushes at one time. So I'm choosing a texture brush and a brush here. So I'll choose this leaf brush, and as you can see I can change my spacing, the scatter, and by using both of these brushes together I can create something very interesting. I can also enable something called color dynamics. So let me go ahead and turn these guys off one at a time. This is interesting as well. What I can do with color dynamics is paint with two colors at the same time. So I'll click on my foreground swatch here, make this foreground color blue, and I'll make the background color red. And with the color dynamics on, I can control the jitter, the saturation, and the brightness of this, and I'll paint. Notice what happens? I'm painting with blue and red and every variant of those colors because I have a hue jitter and a saturation jitter as well as these other jitters on. Don't forget, jitter simply means randomness. Now I also have other dynamics that I can play with, such as an opacity jitter, and many instances have pen pressure, fade, the pen tilt, and a stylus wheel as some of the controls that dictate how the tools work. And of course, this is dependent on whether or not you're using a digital tablet and a stylus. Other effects that you can apply are noise, wet edges, airbrush, smoothing, and protect texture. So experiment with these on your own and find out what they do. Wet edges, by the way, is going to be great for creating a wet brush for painting. You can add noise, which is another word for randomness and jitter. And once again, just have a good time. Once you're happy with your brush, you click this icon right here, and this will allow you to create a new brush, and you can save that brush. It will wind up at the bottom of the list, and we can paint with it.